Welcome to the show. Geek Insider presents Into the Geekverse, the place to get an inside look at movies, comics, games, tech, and everything exciting going on in the Geekverse. Join Matthew Harris and David King as they take a deeper look at the good, the bad, and the downright terrible things our Geekverse has to offer. With live chat, geek news, special guests, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and join us for a peek into the Geekverse.
Roy, welcome to the show, sir. I had a much bigger introduction, but I was getting tongue-tied there, and I want to actually leave it to you to explain more of who you are and about YouNeek and about what's going on.
No problem. First of all, I must say that intro is pretty sweet. I was like literally bobbing my head. Thank you. That's pretty cool. So hello everybody. My name is Roye Okupe. I am the CEO, founder of YouNeek Studios. YouNeek Studios is it's basically a transmedia company. We deal with comic books, graphic novels, animation, but our main focus is telling stories that are inspired by African history, culture, and mythology. Some of you may know us for our award-winning series like Malika Warrior Queen, EXO, The Legend of Wally Williams, or the recently announced, Iyanu, Child of Wonder, which is going to be adapted for animation by HBO Max and Cartoon Network, being produced by LionForge. We are really trying to bring something new, something different, something exciting to the entertainment space, be it comic books, be it animation, and hopefully in the future, video games. So I would dive deeper into some of these things later on, but as an overview, that is really all we are about.
That's really cool. I gotta say, getting the big picture, I like the artwork in the background that you got going on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, hopefully none of them fall off the wall, because that has happened during an interview before. So let's hope it stays.
I also see, are you possibly an anime fan? I see the shirt you got on.
Oh yes, My Hero Academia, one of my favorites ever. Top 5 anime for me personally. I will go Dragon Ball Z, Full Metal Alchemist, Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia. And that I'll probably put Sword Art Online number 5 for me. So that would be my top 5.
You're touching my heart here,
man. Now, Roy, you mentioned is it pronounced Iyanu?
Yes, Iyanu. Yeah,
Iyanu, Child of Wonder, and that is, it's the upcoming show. And I, of course, did my due diligence, and I know that it's a teenage orphan girl suddenly discovers she has abilities. But from what I read, man, this isn't your normal cut and paste superhero. There's a whole culture and just a lot of story behind this. Can you tell? Because I know this is a comic book, and man, you got some very, very ardent fans of this. I saw comments all around the web. They are excited about the show coming. There's interviews on YouTube, or not interviews, just YouTube. Well, interviews too. But there's just a lot of people just even talking about being excited about this coming. So for those that haven't heard of this, because I personally hadn't heard of it till today, and I'm looking forward to it now, or not today, but the other day when I was first told about this interview. But anyway, please tell us.
Yeah. So Iyanu is quickly becoming one of our most popular, if not most popular title now. And like you said, the story follows a teenage orphan girl who loses all recollection of her memory. And on her way to discover who she is and where she comes from, she discovers that she has powers that rival the gods of her land. And it is these powers that can save her and her community from what we call the corrupt. Now, just imagine the corrupt as berserk animals, like literally all the animals in the world or in the land have turned against humanity. The way I try to illustrate it is like imagine maybe 20-foot giraffe with glowing eyes chasing you and smacking you with its elongated neck. That's how terrifying some of it can get. But on a more serious note, yeah, this story is something that's very near and dear to my heart. It's inspired by Yoruba culture. For people that don't know, Yoruba is one of the major tribes in Nigeria where I was born and raised. I personally am from that tribe. So this is something that's deeply connected to my upbringing, connected to where I come from. But I always tell people, I was very much inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra. And if you read the books, you would definitely see some influences in that. So what I always try to tell people, if you do love Avatar or Korra, I don't want it to get into a debate of which one is better, because that would take the entire show. But if you like any of those or both of those, you would really, really, really love Iyanu.
And folks, you can pick that up on YouNeek Studios, and that's youneek.com. I went there. They got a lot of great stuff, but you can pick up the original comics there. And then, as we said, there's no release date or anything yet, is there, Roy, for the animation?
No, not that I can say, unless I want to get in trouble. But
okay, all right.
I don't want to get fired as an executive producer. Just like a month into doing my job. But yeah, it's the books are definitely out there. Volume 1 is not only the website but Amazon.com. You can get it in Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. If you're in London, W.H. Smith. You can get it in Paris. Like, it's literally everywhere. Dark Horse has done a fantastic job of distributing our comics. Not just here in the US, but pretty much in all parts of the world. So I encourage people to that can't wait for the animated series to come out to get the books right now. Volume 2 will be coming out in comic book shops in a couple of weeks, and then it'll be in bookstores in October as well. So yeah, you get to read 2 books. Even before you see the animation, and that's a healthy amount of story. And remember, these are graphic novels. Each one is a minimum of about 120 pages. So you should be able to consume a decent amount of the story and the world and the characters, right now and get into what this world is all about.
That's really fantastic.
Cool. Gotta make sure to pick those up.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing here, Roy, is that at Geek Insider, we actually had another show that went on for a couple of years. It was called Geek Speak. Unfortunately, my co-host there passed away. And,
oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well, thank you. We just had a tribute show the other night, or not a tribute show, but we highlighted all the guests that we had over the years, because there's a question we'll ask you at the end of this show, but we asked everybody. And so I pulled all together all the clips. But my point was getting on that is we always love the indies, the indie producers, or the indie directors, the indie writers, the indie filmmakers.
Yeah.
And we've built up a lot of relationships over the years because of that love. Full Moon Features. We've done Enfuego Entertainment. We've had a couple of people, Shutter, the channel. And so we really like meeting folks exactly like you. This was something that I was going to say for earlier, but for those out there, especially people of color or from different countries in the U.S., what is the biggest piece of advice you can give them about starting out in either animation or the comic book industry? What's the biggest piece? Because I'm sure there's a book you could freaking write about it, but
Yeah. I mean, my biggest advice would be, Don't start. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no. On a more serious note, what I'll say is that don't be afraid to fail. That's one thing that I've had to really just remind myself, even up until now, is don't be afraid to fail, because as creative people, sometimes I think the thing that hinders us the most is that fear that if I put my work out there, nobody's going to buy it, nobody's going to like it, nobody's going to share it, nobody's going to understand it. And I went through all of that. I still go through all of that even till now. But to me, it's returning that fear of failure with action, right? So the moment you're afraid to put out your work, go ahead and put out your work and get the feedback and iterate from there. I always try to tell people that, you know, Walt Disney, one of his first supervisors told him that he lacked imagination. So I can only imagine what he would what would have happened if Disney took that criticism to heart and didn't do anything. We wouldn't get all these great things that the company as Disney has done till now. And the way I look at it is that even if you look at a company as big as Disney, it all started with Mickey Mouse. So I always try to tell people, like, what is your Mickey Mouse? What is that one thing you can start with? Don't think about trying to do so. Oh, you see Marvel, you see DC, you want to have an entire universe of characters. You want to do 50 books and 20 like all that is nice to be ambitious, but you got to start with one thing. I started with EXO, The Legend of Wally Williams, which is a sci-fi Afrofuturist superhero story that takes place in a near futuristic Lagos, Nigeria, again, where I was born and raised. And that book I released in 2015 on Kickstarter. And within 6 months, it was featured on CNN, BBC, Forbes, The Washington Post. Nice. And it was at that point in time that I knew that, it wasn't just people of color or people that looked like me that wanted to see something different in comic books. It was literally the entire community of geeks and fans and people that just love great stories that wanted to see something different. So I encourage people out there, if you have something different, something unique, if you're from part of the world that has not really been featured in entertainment, now is your time to really come out there and put out something that's different into the zeitgeist. And, as long as you do it well, you take your craft very serious, you continue to humble yourself and never feel like you're the best or you've arrived or anything like that. You continue to iterate in terms of being better. I think people respond to that, and people always, even as indie, even now, people are responding more to independent creators, independent filmmakers, independent directors. So now is the time for people like us to really get out there and show what we can do.
Yeah, that's some really great advice. With that point on diversity, I wanted to ask you, someone who takes that to heart, what would you say is the biggest film out there that you think really shows diversity in a way that you would honor, like you would like to use as reference, or something that you could tell people that it's not fake, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there now, right? Like, to me, that I can't really pinpoint one thing. For me personally, what I really love to see is different cultures in the fantasy, sci-fi, superhero genre.
Yeah,
I love to see people's takes on, an Asian superhero or Asian sci-fi. Some of the stuff that you see now with Korean, sci-fi on Netflix. Some of the best things on Netflix. I mean, Squid Games.
Exactly.
Like, look at that.
Exactly.
So that's to me. Diversity can be funneled into like one show or one book. To me, it's really the amalgamation of different people really bringing their different backgrounds into this collection of stuff that we're now seeing, in entertainment. I will say this though, I think the best things that end up being the best for diversity is when the diversity is something that's sort of like icing on the cake, right? And what I mean by that is that you have to start with great story. You can't just do something that, this is something from Africa or this is something from Nigeria, and just for that reason you need to watch it. No, you have to start. And that, for me, that's, I think, what really helped me, is that even though I was very true to my culture, my heritage, my people, where I come from, I really started with great stories and great characters, because I feel like you have to create characters that almost anyone can relate to them. I fell in love with Peter Parker and Spider-Man, not because he was American, but because he got to school and he was bullied and he had problems with girls. Like, that's something that's something that almost anybody from any part of the world can relate to. And I feel like that's really the approach, is that you really need to start with great characters that anybody can see themselves with, and then layer that with diverse cultures, diverse backgrounds, and diverse worlds. Putting those two things together, I think, brings out the best in entertainment.
I love it. And right, it all starts with a great story. And I have to bring up this. We're limited on time, but we actually watched Malika, and I was impressed, man. This left me wanting more. I know it's from several years ago.
Yes,
I'm picking up this. I forget what volumes there were on this. There's 2 volumes, wasn't there?
Yeah. So Malika has volume 1 and volume 2 right now. Yes.
But what you were saying about the story drawing you in, this was, when she goes to meet, I believe it's Roz or
Roz. Yes. Yeah.
She calls him an abomination, and I thought she was going to go up. She's like, even though he's an abomination, do you want another civil war? And so I'm thinking she's going to go up and be, try to have a normal conversation. When she pulls her sword and she's like, she's pointing that finger.
Yeah.
And he laughs at her. But, of course, she chooses herself. But, man, you guys made me snort laugh with the whole my head, my shoulder, my knee, my toes. And then he got higher and higher.
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, where I was going to round that too. Earlier you said that your culture had a lot to do with the Iyanu story.
Yeah.
Was this something because this has history behind it, folks? There's history in Africa here, and it's actually based on real stuff.
Yeah.
So was this something you already knew, or did you have to do some research into it? Because the story seems solid, man. We only got a little taste of it because this was for a pilot, a short film pilot, and of course it leaves with a lot to go. As we know, there's 2 volumes. So again, long story short, is it go ahead, you know what the question was.
No, I completely get where you're coming from. In terms of the research, it's really both, right? So there are certain things that I already know, being that I was born and raised in Nigeria. I grew up on the continent. I spent the first 16, 17 years of my life in Nigeria. So there's certain things that you pick up, but there's an additional layer that you just don't get to experience in school, or on TV or whatever the case may be. And those are the things that you have to take upon yourself as a storyteller to go out there and search for. So what is something that's in the history and the culture and the mythology that can be a great story? And to me, one of the things that I did with Malika is that she's actually inspired by a real African warrior queen called Queen Amina of Zaza. And Zaza was a 16th century, West African kingdom that truly existed. So there's a lot of stuff that sort of like serves as the layer for how I built Malika. Of course, Malika and the Empire of Azaz in the books is fictional and it's its own thing, but it has roots in something that's actually real and authentic. And I think that shines through the books and through the storytelling as well. So to me, there's a lot that I grew up with that I try to put into the story, but there's also a lot of research that goes on into what it is that I try to bring to my stories as well.
Sorry, I was getting feedback there.
I'm really glad that you were on here, being able to share a lot of this new stuff that we get to share with our followers and stuff, being able to pick up these new things. And what Matthew was saying, we got to see that short pilot and everything that wanted leaving us more. But to me, what me and Matthew have always said when watching movies was whenever we watch something, we like things to come out more natural for understanding where they've come from rather than feeling forced. So I totally understand what you're saying. You've got to have a good story first, and then you make these things meld together. And I really like that you're able to put that out. It makes me even more looking forward to the work that you've got coming out. Now, before Matthew has the final interview question.
Wait, I just got a quick follow-up question on that. It's with the Iyanu coming out, and is there anything planned for, coming off of the pilot? Are we going to get more Malika animation, or do we need to go pick up the comics and just keep praying?
Yeah, I would. I love that. Yeah, definitely pick up the comics because, so with Malika, volume 1 is actually 330 pages. So that's a huge book. And there's a lot of story in there. And volume 2 is about 290 pages or something like that. So between volume 1 and volume 2, you're looking at close to even over 500 pages of story in Malika. So I definitely encourage people, if you love the animation, go ahead and get the books. We are working in the backgrounds to try to bring you more Malika that's outside of the books. And that's all I can say for now. Gotcha. But I will say that your support in terms of buying the books, following us on social media, continuing to share, that's actually how Iyanu got the attention of the producers that eventually took it to HBO. So a lot of times people say, oh, I want to see the story animated. I want to see the story as a live action TV or TV series. What you can do when you love something that's in a comic book format is to share it, is to promote it, is to continue to buy the books, because that sends a signal to the people that actually greenlight series or put things into development that, oh, there's something here. And that's why Iyanu is where it is today, is really because of the fans, and it's really because of how much the fans were behind it, from Kickstarter, to just, the explosion that it was on the internet with librarians praising it. So I really, really encourage people that whatever it is you love, it doesn't have to be my stuff. If there's other stuff that you love from other authors,
right,
and you want to see more of that, like in TV and film, continue to promote it and continue to support it.
Now David, I'll let you ask your question in just a second, because that brought me up another one, and you may even thought of this too. This ties it in with what we were saying about supporting indies. David and I love conventions, comic book conventions. Mm-hmm. Have you done the circuit, and have you started back up since the pandemic ended, or with the film and everything going on, is that kind of pushed to the side right now?
Yeah, so from 2015 to, I believe, 2019, I used to do 10 to 12, and I think in 1 year I did 16 cons. So I was very, very hard on the circuit. But obviously when COVID hit, that sort of like put a wrench in my plans. And when things started opening up, earlier this year, towards the end of last year, that's sort of when we started to get word that Iyanu might become an animated series, and that's also when the Dark Horse deal, the 10-book deal, came about. So we hadn't even talked about that. Yeah, there's been a lot that I've been trying to deal with. So it's been hard to get back on the convention circuit, but it's something that's definitely on my in my plans to do. Hopefully, before the year runs out, or maybe starting early next year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that was along the lines that I was going to say, because we just came back from one. And in fact, there was a voice actor from My Hero Academia there at the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's what made me think of it.
That's all. Which one of them? What character did they voice? Do you remember?
They did a lot of anime too, but...
They had Dragon Ball Z. They had several people who voiced. Do you know what's the deity, the blue guy who goes over... that's like next to the cat god.
Is that Whis?
Whis, yeah. The guy who voiced Whis was there too.
Oh, awesome. That's so cool.
There was a lot, and there was one other anime too that I wish I could remember that was there. Unfortunately, we couldn't get interviews with any of them because we really wanted to get the My Hero Academia, because that's big.
Yeah, that's it. That is.
And the thing is this is a con that we've gone to for 3 years now with press passes and covered.
Oh, wow.
And it was a small con, but it has gotten so damn popular. And they had, what's his name? The guy who played Darth Maul. I can't think of his name.
Oh, yeah. I know you're talking about. Yeah, I can't remember.
But they had him this year, and they were like, look, we got bitched at for the last couple of years because people would stand, and I totally get this, that they would stand in line for an hour and a half to get an autograph, and then all of a sudden that guest has to go to a panel or go to an interview. And so it's either, do I stay in line or do I leave and then come back and stand in line an hour again? Yeah. And people were calling and complaining. So I do get that. But we just were hoping that they would at least do one area, or one segment where we could at least get a couple of questions. But we weren't able to this time. But the anime lineup, they had a really nice anime lineup. And but I appreciate you saying we can have you for another 10 minutes ish.
Yes.
David, I've got a couple of more questions I definitely want to ask. Is there anything right off on topical that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, just one more question, because I know we've got the follow-ups and stuff. But I did want to let you know, I think it was pronounced Katsuki, the character that he voiced. And then my other question was, we talked a lot about your work and the upcoming things. And I wanted to ask you, you built YouNeek Studio. And I wanted to ask you, like, what was the biggest challenge that you faced that you could share with people that are also trying to do what you did?
Easy money. That's
what the world revolves around.
That was definitely the biggest struggle. When I first started this, I quit my full-time job and I went directly into creating comics full-time in 2015, and I did that for 2 years, and I could never really pay myself, from the comics.
Right.
So I had to in 2017 or 2018, I can't remember what it was. I had to actually get another full-time job, and I was doing both at the same time. And I share that because sometimes people look at that as a failure or shame. And I want to tell you, if you're in that same position where you're juggling a full-time job with, your side hustle, create, something creative, don't be ashamed, man. That's the reality that, we have to live. I did that for 2 to 3 years, where it's like I had to balance a 9 to 5 and doing this creative work when I didn't make any money for 5 years. I'm telling you this, and I have to be frank. It's a hard business. It's a hard business doing comics. A lot of us do it because we just love it so much. But it's brutal. It's hard, but it rewards the people that, stay true to the craft and stay true to who they are, and not capitulating to, what's the most popular thing to do now, and let me just go there. It's like, continue to stay true to who you are, and never be ashamed of where you where you are in the moment. Luckily for me, I was able to, in 2020, quit my full-time job again and go back to doing this, doing comics and animation, full time, and I've never looked back, since then. But that's just what you go through as a creator. Sometimes is financially it's hard because comics are very expensive to make. Don't let me even get you started on animation. That's another crazy thing. So somebody's got to pay for all this, and and you need to eat, you need to pay rent, you need to pay bills. So it can be a very, very, very difficult journey trying to be creative and not making a lot of money or not having investors to support you. But if I had anything to advise people who are in that position, is just stay the course. Do what you got to do to continue to fund your comics. If you need to work 2 jobs in order to continue to fund the comics, then that's what you're going to do, because that's the reality. Like I said, it's hard. It can sometimes be a very brutal business, but if you love it and you stay true to yourself, I believe that eventually, you're going to get an opportunity. You're going to get a window where, maybe it's a window to pitch to a publisher, or it's a window where somebody saw your work on Webtoons and they want to adapt it for an animated series, or, an investor who, goes on social media and sees one of the images that you posted that, everybody is commenting on, and reaches out to you and says, hey, I want to invest in you. So I feel like there would be that moment for you, and it's up to you to prepare yourself, to be prepared for that moment, to be able to respond in a proper way that you can escalate your career as well. So keep grinding, keep doing your thing, and I wish the best for everybody out there.
Once again, great advice.
It is. And man, we may be out of ammo when I ask him the final question, because he's given so much sage advice here, and great advice. And you touched on this a minute ago. I had this down as one of my questions, man, because like we said, we're fans of indies, and we're fans of comic books and conventions. I have been a fan of indies all the way back into the late 80s, early 90s, with She, Way of the Warrior, and God, I loved Milk and Cheese. I don't know if anybody out there knows what that is, but it was this rudest comics ever. But Dark Horse, I was there when Dark Horse started, and you've got this 10-book deal that you touched on a minute ago. Yeah. What is that? How did it come about? And how has it inspired creators to take notice of diversity in the market?
Yeah, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to Dark Horse, So they approached me sometime in 2018, I believe, or early 2019. I can't remember. They had seen, and this is what I meant by if you continue to be consistent in your excellence, eventually there's going to be a window where an opportunity comes by. And I think in 2019, I had produced, through Kickstarter, 8 graphic novels on my own, all funded, self-funded with Kickstarter. And they had taken notice to that, and they had seen Malika Warrior Queen. And I had somebody from Dark Horse who sent me an email, honestly, through my website. Initially, I thought it was spam. Like, I was like, I mean, this is just a scam email. Like, why would Dark Horse even be reaching out to me? And then I actually saw that the email came from someone at darkhorse.com. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually real. So I responded. They brought me out to New York Comic Con, and literally my pitch to them was I dropped 8 graphic novels on the table in front of the editor that I was pitching to, and I was like, you're not going to see anything like this in the space of comics, and that was my pitch, and you could tell that he was really impressed, because what I was able to show was not only longevity, but consistency as well as excellence. And I think that's, publishers nowadays want to see that creators can not only, create, but they can also market themselves. They also can go through the entire process of actually producing a comic book. They can be on social media. They can grow a fan base. And I had proven all these things over the last, at that time, 5 years that I've been doing it. And the proof was in the pudding with the books, so about 6 months later, they came to me, offered me a 10-book deal. Obviously, I jumped on that. They announced it in, January of 2021. Oops, as my light falls down, sorry.
You're all right.
They announced it in 2021. And it's funny, like 3 days ago, we've recently announced that 10-book deal has been extended by another 20 books.
What?
Exactly. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
30?
So now, we've released over since 2021 when it was announced, we've released 6 books already. So now there's 24 more books to come, essentially, in the next 5 to 7 years. Yeah, so it's a lot. Woo! It's a lot.
And
these
are like 5 issues of one thing is 20 of the books. This is 20 different titles, right? Basically,
this is it's going to be so in the YouNeek YouNiverse we have the Malika series, the EXO series, the Iyanu series, and the Windmaker series. So these are 4 different titles.
Gotcha.
And those first 10 books were spread across those 10 titles. Now these 20 books, right? 10 of those 20 books would be to continue the YouNeek YouNiverse. But another 10, I'm going to be creating a new story that's called the Asiri. This is more like a space opera story that's inspired by African mythology. Just think of it as X-Men meets the Attack on Titan. So yeah, that's exactly that's the reaction that people get.
We both perked up.
That's the reaction that Dark Horse got when I told him that's what I was doing. So 10 of those books would be to build out this new universe. The Asiri-verse is what we call that. So I'm going to be very busy for the next few years, if you can tell. But yeah, again, I have to give a lot of credit to Dark Horse, because this just goes to show how much they are putting their money where their mouth mouth is in terms of they're not just saying we want to do something more diverse. They're actually giving the resources, the time, the marketing, the publicity, and the effort behind putting these stories out there in a way that people can see them globally. So again, Dark Horse has always been a very creator friendly publisher, and I think I personally I am a shining example of what that means in terms of how important it is to Dark Horse to to promote diversity and do something different in the comic book world.
I'm glad they picked you up, man. Can't think of anybody better.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And folks, all of these graphic novels and stories that we've discussed, they're available on the YouNeek uniquestudios.com, and then Amazon and everywhere. And we're out of time here, man. I have a feeling we could talk for a lot more. I hope that Roy, that you and your department keep us in mind whenever there's more announcements. We'd love to have you back. If all else, if we can't have you back, give us the press releases. We'll share it out with the audience.
Gotcha.
But as I said earlier, we have one question that we ask every guest.
Okay.
And man, you've given great advice to aspiring indies. You've given great advice to a lot of people, but we want to know that if you could go back in time and give young Roy one single piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't change who you are. Just keep on being who you are. Do you and don't worry about what other people think. Just continue to be authentic to yourself, and surround yourself with a great team. That's one thing that I didn't really talk about. Unique Studios is more than just Roy. I write and create these stories, but I work with a bunch of different artists that bring all this stuff to life. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I would go back and tell myself that just stay true to who you are, and don't change yourself just to fit in or to try to figure out, what do people want to see, or what do people want from me. Just be authentic to yourself, because if people are going to fall in love with you and your stories, they should fall in love with the real you, because if they fall in love with a fake you're going to eventually crash, because you can't keep up that charade for a very long time. So be yourself.
Wise, yeah.
And as I said earlier, Roy, I've done over 50 of these. This is what I love, is that the unique answers and getting that insight. Everybody has their own unique life where has brought them to where they are today. Yeah. And we really appreciate you sharing your time with us and the audience tonight. I learned a lot. I found something. You got to get at least one new fan, I assume, too, with him over there, because I'm going to be checking out, like I said, Malika for sure. The trailer brought me in, or the pilot. I know you got to get out. We're right on the mark, man. We're right on the mark. But Roy, like I said, let us know anytime that you got something going on. We'd love to have you back and get you for a full hour, or maybe even a few minutes more. But folks, y'all stay tuned. David and I will wrap things up. We got a couple of things we want to talk about who's coming next week and beyond. And so stay tuned. Roy, you have a great evening, sir. And we hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much
again for joining us.
No, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. This has actually been a lot of fun, and I do want to come back. So definitely, the moment I have more to share, I'll be right back with you guys. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Keep our ears on the ground.
Fantastic. I'll be watching the email, Roy. Have a great week, sir.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. All right.
Wow, what a great interview.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. And, and that's what I love about this show, and the connections that we've made with marketers and PR people, is that we do get the opportunities for those kind of interviews and get introduced to new things. I got introduced to Sam Tenez because of their PR person asked if we wanted to have him on. I listen to his music all the time now. Same with Joe Hertler and the Rainbow Seekers. There's several comics that God, I wish I had one of them laying here because it's a really kick-ass comic that I found because of Geek Insider and the old show. And that's one thing that we're doing here, everyone, is we're bringing a little of that flavor over here, but this is mine and David's style. And as you can see, David knows anime. He knows a lot more about gaming, whereas I know more about blockchain and crypto, and we both know movies. And so that, you know, that's what Into the Geekverse is all about. We are, David, this was the 10th episode, man, already.
Happy anniversary.
Right. I don't know what 10 is. I mean, it ain't 10 year, but anyway, this is more, or this is kind of the preview of more to come. We had an interview last week with Jordan Moriello with Moriello.com, which they help influencers, gaming influencers, get more advertisers, so to speak, or more sponsors. And then next week, David, I was talking to you earlier about the possible things, or the things that I'm getting lined up, and I said, oh yeah, and I'm working with one about blockchain and gaming. Well, that's what's coming up next week. We got Lars Christensen. He is the chairman of the Concordium Foundation and founder of Saxo Bank. And he's going to be joining us to discuss gaming and blockchain and how he believes it can help thwart the darker side of gaming, such as bot accounts, scammers, and of course the ever feared child exploitation. I'm a big proponent of blockchain if used correctly. Doji coin, you're not using it correctly. But Ethereum and Bitcoin, I see a lot of potential in those two areas of the blockchain. But Lars is going to come in and discuss how he thinks it can help the gaming world. His company, Concordium Foundation, they already work with businesses on doing the blockchain stuff. So I thought, this is perfect. A, it's blockchain, and then B, it's gaming. And so that fits right into the Geekverse, and literally. So we are going to have him. And then there's some other things in the work for September. I'm hoping to have a couple more gaming things for September. And then, of course, Halloween's coming up. And Matthew has some good connections in the horror world.
In that horror. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will be reaching out tomorrow to a certain someone that is in the horror area that I love and worship and do the "we're not worthy" thing to. And then, of course, we have the connections with Shudder. I'm going to be reaching out to them. So October could be pretty busy. I would love to do more than 4 shows. It's just going to depend on our bandwidth, on how much we can do. I would like to bring back the HorrorCon that we did a couple of years ago, that on Geek Speak, where we had just like 3 days of stuff. But anyway, that's something we can discuss.
Speaking of horror, I was going to talk to you about. See, I went and saw Nope recently, which is a Jordan Peele production, and I know that we've both watched several of his movies. And before I gave you a review of Nope and stuff, I was going to see, why don't you start off telling us a little bit about what you've experienced from him and your opinions from the films?
Well, I absolutely loved Get Out. I absolutely loved it. I turned you on to it. It's a good flick. It's a good storyline. That's what's always big with me. But then came Us. And folks, man, Jordan, if you're listening, man, please come on and debate me. But I seen all over the web where people are talking about how it's a great horror movie. That was one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. And I love B horror movies, but the whole, I just didn't like it. I didn't like it, especially the climax. And so I didn't even see them or one of his other new ones. And then Nope looked like it was going to draw me in. I liked the trailers and stuff. And Brenda and I were going to go see it. but I trust your opinion. And then I heard from you.
Yeah, man. So it was my turn this time, guys. I trust his opinion. I didn't get to see Us because I decided, all right, well, if he really said it wasn't that good, I was diving into there's always so much. And
Right.
so, like, I dived into the next big thing. So Nope came out. Me and Matthew both talked about it. We saw the trailers and everything. And me and my girlfriend were in a horror mood, and she agreed to go see a movie with me. So I was like, why don't we go see this Nope? It looks really good. To start off, this trailer has this really good mood setting. And what I mean by that is often things that really get me going into the trailers is when your music develops the mood through imagery. Right. So you've got that because you remember there's that song that's got the beat and it gets faster and like it gets your heart pumping and you're wondering what's going next, and then you've got this dark imagery, this ominous figure. And so, that intrigued me, like what's going to happen to them? What is this about? So we really like that. And then right before we go see it, we see the trailer while we're watching something else. And they changed the trailer completely, which is, I feel like, one of the biggest gambles. And we've seen this time and time again when you've got these big movies coming out and you're watching trailers before other movies that you've seen for weeks and weeks. And then the last two trailers, like the last 2 weeks before it actually comes out, they've changed it with a different one. There's no music for this one. I felt like it really pulled my attention away. I'm like, this one's not getting my heart beating into it. And I was like, you know what? I still want to see it. That's a really risky move. And although I didn't feel it, maybe other people did feel it, so we went and saw it. I feel like this was right there in line with the feel that I get from Jordan Peele and his horror movies. I could say that I understand that this story gives off the same, like, I feel like I could tell this was a Jordan Peele production because no matter whether it was Get Out or this, there's a uniqueness to it.
Yeah, there is.
And
it's like you can tell an M. Night Shyamalan movie,
Yeah.
There a lot of, or Quentin Tarantino. You can tell these directors' movies and these writers' movies. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So we're watching this movie, and you've got this alien that's clearly told in the trailer.
Wait, spoilers alert! Oh yeah, there's a spaceship in the trailer. Yeah. So yeah.
But I will say spoilers because I am going to break it down a little bit more. So thank you, Matthew. It's been a while since we've done a movie review.
Yeah.
All right. So in the trailer, they've got this big land and this ominous figure that's given that there's this spaceship. Actually, you think it's a spaceship. Spoiler, it's not a spaceship. Yeah, see? All right, so you're a little bit interested. So these things end up happening, and then you see that it finally makes an appearance. He leaves and stuff like that.
Is it a fucking hologram or something, man?
No, it's not.
Okay, all right.
So the movie starts, and they're on the farm. The horse is running off. They're trying to figure out different ways. They get a fake metal horse. They put it out in there. And then they realize that this alien spaceship, alien whatever thing, doesn't like it. Man, it spits it out. It like really roughs it all up and everything. It can't. They get all sucked up into what we figure out. It's not a spaceship. It's the alien. The alien is that floating machine. It's not a spaceship. Like, that's the actual alien itself. And it turns out it's been hiding in this cloud back there, and it never moves because they figured this out because they have security cameras and they watch the time lapse, and it never moves. So it's disguised as this cloud. But anyways, there's a lot to it, and I really can't do it justice by like explaining it, even though I was not a fan of it.
It still sounds cool.
But the biggest thing that really bothers me, and once again, like you said, Jordan, if you're watching this by any off chance, we'd really love to hear from you and kind of break this down because I can't tell you how many times like Venom and now Morbius that we've seen and we're like, we do not like this. Somebody walks us through it or we watch it from a different perspective and we really like it.
So you did enjoy it when you watched it on?
I haven't watched it again. I did not like it the first time. But I'm just saying, Jordan, if you want to come in and tell us, we're open. We don't want to just hard crash your thing without like doing everything else. But the main thing that really tore my focus apart and just perplexes me is 25% of the movie, which you get pieces throughout it, is about this other character that, from my understanding, has no importance to the story whatsoever. He's just a random character, and you get a full backstory with him. You start the movie with this random chimp that's just full of blood, and there's blood all over the stage and everything like that. And then it like disappears, and like slowly throughout the movie, you just get random like cuts back to this backstory, and you don't realize it's this guy until the very end. But then you figure out that this guy was on this show when he was young, that there was this sound that made this chimp crazy and killed everyone on the live acting show. Right. And he's hiding underneath the table.
And then the chimp down on him.
No, he hid from all the horror and stuff. And so the chimp finished and there was another noise and then just starts killing this person that's like already dead. And there's this person trying to run away from the stairs and the chimp like goes crazy, kills that person, comes back. But then at the end, you realize that the chimp turns and looks, but he wasn't looking at nothing. He found the boy that was under the table.
Oh, shit. So but it's like two movies in one?
Well, no, because it's only like 25% and there's no real story there. It's just you get pieces figuring out that there was this accident here, but you don't really get any explanation.
It doesn't tie into the...
No, not at all from what I saw. And so like that intrigued me. Like, you know, it wasn't like a weird sci-fi alien horror. It was just like this monkey, but it had nothing to do with it. And like right before the kid gets murdered or anything like that, something happens. They take care of the monkey or whatever. He grows up. He becomes a neighbor to these other people. And it turns out that he's stealing the horses from the main characters and sacrificing it to the alien. And there's this weird thing. So like, dude, in all aspects, you know, it can sound good, but when you're watching it, it leaves you very lackluster because also I feel like they reveal the alien and then show it too much. Like they explain too much of it. And to me, that pulls away from my like, oh shoot, like what's going to happen? My heart's beating. I don't know what that's capable of, but they break it down and, you know, you understand way too much of it, which I feel like, you know, it pulled me up. And then it kept breaking into the other story or backstory. So I was like,
but on the, you know, the flip side of that stuff, we know that Jordan Peele is a talented man and he has put out some really good stuff. We just haven't
like Key and Peele.
And maybe I'm being too hard and I'm measuring everything up against Get Out. But I just hadn't liked the last few ones. I'm gonna watch Nope, of course. But you know, the thing is that I don't remember where I was going with that. Frick, I almost got through an entire episode without losing my train of thought.
It's called the blip in Spider-Man, remember? Except for yours happens like in a couple seconds.
Right. Do the snap and I'm done. You know, I really do hope that Roye comes back. Folks, if you're just tuning in on Facebook or YouTube, we had Roye right until about 20 minutes to the top of the hour. He had a heart out, but he did say that he would like to come back. And so as soon as he's got something new to announce, we'll get him back because I still had some questions for him. I wanted to talk about Windmaker, which just came out in April of this year, a comic or graphic novel. And then there's, you know, there were several other titles on uniquestudios.com, and that's YOUNEEK.com or studios.com. They have several other titles there that I don't even know anything about right now. And you know, we do research, ladies and gentlemen. When we have somebody on, David and I usually meet at some point on Sundays or sometimes even Saturdays, and we'll discuss what's going to go on the show. And then we do some research. to at least get a few questions down. Like I said at the top of the show, I like having a few questions down and then seeing where the conversation goes, because as you saw, as Roy talked, there was spewing questions. And David, as you'll notice, man, we got to come up with a sign when you have a definitive question you want to ask right then, because my brain will get going and I'm like, oh, I need to, this question needs to be right here. and I know I used to do that to Meredith a lot, and she had like a little ghost face killer with that punched. It was like a Pez dispenser, and it punched. I think it may have just been a ghost, but it looked like Ghostface Killer, and she'd put that up. It's that, and then she did something else when it was break time, which we didn't take a single break. I have got to get those breaks loaded. We got a brand new one coming, hopefully in the next week anyway, with a quote unquote official sponsor. Hint, hint, ladies and gentlemen. And that's huge for us. And we'll make the announcement when it is all said and done, and we'll be coming live, or when it goes live. But yeah, we have an official sponsor coming for I believe 2 months. It may be a month to start with, but it's a big name. It's a name you'll recognize most definitely. But that's going to do it for us, folks. When we get these kind of interviews, sometimes these folks have hard outs. If you're just tuning in and you missed the interview and you want to catch it, make sure you just restart it on YouTube. I will go and change it right now to where it's on the channel. I'll also be pulling this down so it goes onto the podcast. So of course you can throw it in or turn it on to your favorite podcast app and start it wherever you want, wherever you missed out on, because Roy was a really good guest, man. Like I said, I love when I get introduced to something new that I like. I like getting introduced to anything new, especially when we can share it with the audience, because generally, if it's not my cup of tea, it's going to be somebody's cup of tea. That's the same way I approach the music stuff. But anyway,
like Matthew said, there's a lot of new content coming, guys, between interviews. Also, a little bit of a spoiler alert for you gamers out there. There's the new recently King's Fall raid that was released back from Destiny 1 come to Destiny 2. I do have a video I'm putting together for that. Go to Geek Insider and keep your ear on the ground for that, as it will be released with an article. We don't have a hard release date yet for that, but please stay tuned. And if you do like these interviews that's coming out, gaming content, comic book, movie-related stuff, please tell your friends, go online. You can subscribe to us on youtube.com. You can hit that bell notification for notifications when we go live and air stuff. You can always drop us comments on anything related that you'd like us to look into or do a show about, and we'd be happy to oblige, especially if it's something new that we may not know about. Is that right, Matthew?
Yes, definitely. Especially, you got a new comic coming out, new movie, anything like that, hit me up, Matthew@geekinsider.com. David, I promise you this week we're getting David at geekinsider.com. Again, folks, next week, Lars Christensen, chairman of the Concordium Foundation. He's going to come on and talk to us about using blockchain to help the gaming industry and help keep it more safer and get rid of some of the dark side of it. And David, any final words? Any final words, boy?
No, I don't think so, but stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff planned for you guys.
Yep, and you've been listening to Into the Geekverse, a Geek Insider production. Subscribe to the Geek Insider podcast on your favorite listening app, or join us live on YouTube and Facebook every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Central. Visit geekinsider.com for tons of great geek content, and be sure to sign up for the newsletter. As always, this show is dedicated to our cohort and friend, Meredith Logren. Rest in peace, Meredith. We'll see you next week, folks, and you better be there, or we might just have to revoke your geek card. Have a great week, everyone.